Welcome to day 4 of 5 Days of Defiance. Thank you to Ketsa for this music production in the background. The intention today is to continue these 5 days of activation in order to provide a sanctuary which you already innately hold, and yet has been shaken by a number of external factors. And so this is a gift. These are 5 days of contribution to my community across the world who are facing various things, whether it be climate change or political change or interpersonal change, and all the many ways we as human beings need to surf the chaos of this existence. And it's been my passion to follow the art of play, of the sacred clown, of to inquire into the nature of chaos and game theory. I've studied game design. I am a game designer. I'm also an adventurer. And I've used this idea of play and I've taken it to the streets. I've gone across countries. And I guess for most of my life, I just call myself an artist. And one of the reasons I love art is because it seems to be both pivotal and frivolous. It's something that we would do even if we weren't paid or we didn't have to, because it's pleasurable, because it's beautiful, because it's life-giving, and it's intrinsically linked to our wisdom, I believe. And it seemed like one of the most rebellious things to do when I was growing up, because everyone, no, that's not true. My projection of everyone was that I should become sensible and do something useful, learn the information, do the job, be respectable, create influence. And these seem to be important adult things to do. And so I spent most of my life trying to convince maybe just myself that art was a worthwhile endeavor. And I've gone through academia and done lots of different degrees and things, so I can articulate very well why play, art, beauty actually have a very pivotal and functional role in serious things like economics and psychology and the environment and all these kind of things. So today I talk about, talking about communication, about eloquence. And as you've been following this journey, we're coming up now to the throat, to expression, and to poetry, and looking at how we can create a space to deliver our message, to share with others, to recast the narrative of that which we are co-creating as our. It is an illusion, but it's a self-cast illusion of the authorship of our story. And when it comes to state, yesterday I talked about this difference between state and story. There is also a state of art. So the story is the meaning we attribute to the art, and then the state is the condition of the particles and the wavelengths which splash and swirl and curl and quiver through our voice, through our dance, through the pixels on the screen or the paint on the canvas, however we like to create beauty. And I think for me, one of the roles of the artist could be that of maybe a beautician, you might say, where we are there to witness. And I think a lot of artists take in life in an exquisite and excruciating way. We heighten our sense, and then we relay that back to people, maybe who weren't there in the thing we experienced, or who were there but were not quite able to feel it as deeply as we did. And this is why I'm here for the artist, because I've got such respect for people who step forward almost like an act of sacrifice, of love, to feel the feels, to look at the uncomfortable, and to process it and integrate it into such a way that they can become a source of it, or at least a source of the lesson gained from really going there. So with these 5 days, it was an idea of creating a sanctuary and a place of stability while the world might be shaking, but at the same time also to shake, because I don't, for myself, just want to be numb and neutral and stable and balanced and sensible while the world is going through these convulsions. I also want to convulse with it because I am an extension of it. It is me. And so it's this interesting balance between being stable and sane, for which I would define as being in my awareness, in alignment with my true note, and responding in accordance with what is actually going on. Because you can imagine I could be sitting there weeping and traumatized because I, didn't have enough milk for my cereal. That would not necessarily be measure or commensurate with the actual problem. Whereas if someone died or was at some huge tragedy, that response would be sane, appropriate, aligned, matching life. So it's not about not being emotional or not being traumatized or not being shaken or anything. It's about, does my inner state match my outer state? Can I hold all of the charge, the emotions, the senses that come through me? Can I still have my signature, my DNA, my essence? And then can I come forward and give back as good as I get and participate in life? And that is one of the key things that open world stands for. It's openness and connection. It's participation. It's play. It's contribution. It's belonging. And that is one of the things that really just, I'm usually for things as opposed to against things. So maybe I won't say what I'm against, but I'm for openness and connection. I'm against insulation and fear. I like things that open us. And so it actually doesn't matter to me the excuse or the reason to shut people down, to make them fear and shrink away from life, to tell them to limit their love and connection into the world. I pretty much unequivocally, universally say no, that is not the answer. I know in an emergency, we might grip the quickest tool, the biggest hammer, and slam things and try to just put out the fire or stop things. I get it that we have that reactionary response, but that's not sustainable. It's not sustainable to entrap people, to imprison people. I don't like a punitive system. I don't believe locking a person in a room is going to rehabilitate. And I also don't believe that disconnecting people and making them fear each other or nature or the future is going to lead to a well and happy society. We live on a planet that is ever changing, and there are many convulsions. The breakdown of the communication and the systems of intention will always happen. There will be a schism between expectation and actuality. Always. And hopefully always, because that is part of the mystery. And so there's this human tendency to want to control, to predict so that we can survive. And yet I've found that to thrive actually is going into the mystery and not knowing exactly what is there, because there's actually greater things than we can anticipate and make happen. If you make everything happen, you can only, it's like breathing into your own hands and inhaling your own breath. If you're in total control, you're only receiving what you're giving. Your world can only be what you can fathom. The chaos, and I define chaos as more being a pattern that we can't quite ascertain from our particular perspective. Like if I'm looking through a peephole, there might seem to be this tangle of lines, but maybe if I pulled back, if I zoomed out, I might see how they loop around the sun and come back and are actually quite coherent and balanced. And maybe therefore predictable. But sometimes through my particular perspective, I can't link the lines. I think it's all madness. It's madness. Need to stop that, snip those lines, clamp it down, put it in a cage, put a muzzle on it, because I don't know what's going to happen. But the playful clown, the wanderer, the traveler, the adventurer, and the artist and dreamer often relish the revelation of the new. So that's what today is about. It's about being an artist and a creator and following beauty as a practical approach to the very real condition of being human amongst many other humans and amongst many other variables, and actually trusting it. And this is a key point for today, is that for me, art is not just a nicety atop the essentials. It is actually part of the essentials. It is actually part of what makes this world go. And I think when people start to look at the world through that lens, that's where we get our state of awe from, is because we see how beautiful the design of the universe is. We see the way that flowers are aligned. We see this really pleasurable cycle between giving and receiving, suckling, eating, digestion, sex, culmination, rich fruit, winds, sweeping across a plain, the dance of sand, the flock of birds, the intrinsic link between the atomic and the cosmic. Like, what? This is awesome. And you don't have to necessarily think it's divine guidance or God designed. Just like it. It's a good thing. It works well. It works really well, in fact. And part of the work, the way it functions, is the art of it. And this is where you get feng shui, you get tai chi. This is where you get the patterns that might erode into a cliffside. It's where you get the importance of emotion and communication. It actually works. It helps open people up. The flow of something through a space that doesn't grind and slash and crunch is more sustainable. It will break less things. Nature will lead you through color, through sound, towards fruit, towards food, towards the cross-pollination through flowers of things which we need to perpetuate our ecosystem in which we will exist. It'll also warn you of things that are maybe poisonous or dangerous. So the pleasure and the pain and the art are actually linked. It's like a very simple binary of towards and away from. And in a world without language, before words were invented, it is a communication system to us. And so that is why I'm a huge proponent for saying that everybody is an artist, because it is simply part of this existence. Talking to nature, feeling into your body, expressing to another human being, integrating and trying to fathom the unfathomable, essentially. And that's where we get into the abstract nature of some art. You might look at a painting and it's kind of smudged and it just makes you feel something. And they say a picture says 1,000 words. Sometimes there can be very smart people trying to teach us or warn us about the way society is going or give us a particular life lesson, but doesn't land until someone sings it to us or we watch a movie about it. Or we just feel the texture of it and all of a sudden we understand what a baby means when you squish his cheeks. Or we understand what it means to be in an exotic space when we smell the food in the marketplace. Then we get it. And that's experiential. It goes from cognitive to somatic. And that is one of the key remedies of the art as well, is because we're too smart. We've got this big central brain of big data and all of the lessons handed down quite didactically from the past to tell us how things have to be, how they are, and it takes away from us the right to initiate through it ourselves. And this is one of the ancient practices of rites of passage that I think we've been robbed of in the modern day, that just goes, no, we've already written a book on that. Just do this course, memorize these, 10 tenets, and you know how things are. But we don't know, because knowing is feeling. Well, feeling is part of knowing, at least a composite part, an essential part. And art helps us feel. And this is one of the amazing things that I believe, just my personal opinion about art, is it's an amazing place to encode knowledge. Because if you think about book burnings, what exists beyond that is the spoken and sung word, is the dance, is the culture. That can't be put in a cage, burnt, snipped, squashed completely. And having said that, there is also this idea of trying to separate us from those things by changing languages. And that's an interesting area of study, is to look at how language has been shifted and imposed on cultures by a colonizer. And all their dialects die out. I've lived for a large part of my life in Australia, and there were so many different dialects in the different nations of the indigenous population of Australia that now are non-existent. So it's actually a really powerful tool of homogenization, subjugation, and basically extending your empire is through extending your words. Having said that, I hope even in the tones of the voice and the movements of the song, we can pass things along that are prohibited and yet vital, that are medicine. And so how to do that? Well, this is a workshop on just that. And so I'm going to start by dropping us in, and then I'm going to talk about creating space to share with others in a beautiful and aesthetic way. So let's take this time to gently shimmer and shimmy our bodies like the instrument that they are. Feeling this amazing central nervous system, feeling your brain in the jar of your skull, almost like the amniotic fluid, as though your brain is a baby in the womb. whooshing and swashing around. And then imagine it dripping down through the nerves at the back of your head into your spine, and feeling this amazing spinal column that enables all animation and mobility in your body. And take it from side to side and forward and back. Obviously, working with your own physical limitations, but just feeling the mobility and the fluidity and coming right down to your tailbone, rotating your hips a bit, and feeling that simple end to end of our physiology, tailbone to atlas vertebrae, and then maybe into the crown of the head. And I want you to breathe. I invite you to breathe from your tailbone as though it's a straw. You can suck up the prana, the life juice of the world, up from your tailbone. And just imagine breathing up towards the crown of your head. And then imagine your head is a upside down bowl, a coconut, that then drips that energy back down through your torso. We'll do some 3 deep body breaths, and I invite you to let a sigh out on the exhale, because we really want to start activating our voice. So breathing right down into your perineum, right down into your root, right down into your bladder, into your womb, into your hips, into your buttocks, down into your thighs, even down into your knees, breathing right down. And then softening there, but holding, and then breathing even further down into your calves, down into your feet. And now letting out a sound, allowing it to reverberate and be supported by your root. Taking your hands, rubbing them together. Looking at the palms of your hands, bring them about a centimeter apart. Just looking, bringing love as we did in day 1. Now on day 4 or 5, we are giving ourselves the reward of having walked this path. We're gently massaging our faces and softening any mask we've worn throughout the day. Softening the jaw, opening up the back of the throat with maybe even a yawn. Brushing across the collarbones, shaking up the shoulders, starting to activate this amazing instrument of the voice. Welcome to Atlas's art session. Good. Having your hands come down the front of your body, gently stroking towards your solar plexus, which is here, where your ribs meet your heart. And just also starting to massage down in your belly towards that sacral center, really being aware of your belly button and just below it, coming an energy coming from there back towards your spine, and pull up the energy from your root, draw it up. And see what it's like when you make sounds from the body. Does your voice change when you're kind of sounding from your your abdomen, from your hips, from your, like, supporting, clenching the bum, having your thighs, just this like grounded root-based sound? You might want to squat, you might want to activate in any way that feels like you're grounded. And then what happens if you have such a strong sound like that? Oh, I won't go right to the mic, but over here. So that's quite strenuous, you might say. How can I allow that to come up through this vocal channel without straining my voice? And this is a correlation. Some talk about a mirrored tree. If you imagine the anus, if you imagine the yoni, if you imagine these canals and channels down around our groin being similar to our mouth and our throat. And then maybe if you come down here through this canal, you can also come up here through this canal. And then maybe you arrive at something like the lungs and the heart, and you arrive at something like the stomach and the womb. And then maybe there's a central sun, like an axis point on which it all rotates. Maybe. And then what would it be like to honor each part that makes a sound? Can you feel like you're sounding from your womb, and then everything else up the channel just opens and supports and allows? It doesn't try to influence. Just like when you have an idea, can you allow it to come through without clenching it and filtering it and adjusting it and censoring it? Similarly with the voice, can we Just allow the softness and yet still the power, the yin and the yang, the balance between the activation and the surrender. And then how does the sound change if we come up from that lower cavern up into the upper cavern of our heart and our lungs? And how does the sound shift? When the personality of that body part starts to sing. And this is such a gift to self when we tune in and we speak from the body and we realize that there are different essences. If we confine ourselves to one identity, oh, I'm the silly one, I'm the sexy one, I'm the important one, I'm the unimportant one, I'm the ugly one, I'm the beautiful one, I'm the graceful one, I'm the clumsy one. Sure, but why not have a number of components to allow yourself to be wild and to be still, allow yourself to be powerful and also to be carried like a leaf on the stream. And I believe that the different organs in the body and the different parts of us encoded in the singular represent this whole spectrum. And that's talking back to this idea of the fractal nature of the universe, like our body being like our community, being like the whole natural biome of Earth. So if there's a variety out there, there's probably also a variety in here. And there's something really satiating and relieving when you let yourself be all the versions of yourself, and all the parts of your body get to activate and culminate and squish and squirt and mix, because they all have medicine for each other. Yeah. So hopefully your voice is feeling online. In the beginning, there was the word. For me, that kind of means from the nothingness of the void, we start to reverberate. And the ideas, the dreams, the possibilities start to engage with matter, start to vibrate the atoms, start to come into a shared space. Like until we are fully telepathic, I still have to talk to really convey the exactness. I mean, you can probably pick up my vibe, pick up what I'm putting down, but when I craft it into words, they are symbols which convey my exact, as best as I can represent, internal universe. And then they reverberate across a shared space. So even if it's just humming and touching, it's the way that my personal universe can intersect with your personal universe. And that's what art does for me. It's a channel and the means through which to not be just alone. I do believe personally this is a sovereign journey, and all the important portals are passed through alone, solo. It's a solo mission. But we have these reservoirs, these estuaries where we can commune in community. We can come together and say, hey, how was your journey? Your way in, you made it. Well done. We're here. Oh my God, we're on Earth. This is cool. And then you go off and you start a new job, or you go overseas, or you enter a relationship, or you die, whatever the thing is. And then it's like, I hope in the time we shared, we exchange enough particles that all of the lessons from my path that I've garnered allow you to expand your perspective. Because I think that is one of the most beautiful things of art, is that I can go off there, you go over there, we come back, we share through story and song. And I go, wow, I got a multiple perspective on this life. I can't live all the lives, but I can collect a lot of stories from other people who have lived their lives and start to have a look at this multifaceted disco ball, as I talk about. I can see it from over there and here. And then I start to actually come into the true awe of actuality, of getting more of an objective perspective, not quite so obsessed with my subjective axis point and lens. So how to talk? How do we talk? So I'm going to do a rapid, like 30 seconds to a minute catching up of establishing a space, because we kind of talked about this in some of the days. But before we talk, space. So cast your intention into the space that we're in now, and just decide this is your studio. Doesn't matter if you're in your bedroom or in a public park or wherever it is. This is your dojo. This is the space of true transformation. It is important. Get a point of reverence if you can, an underlying essence of purpose, something that means something to you, and you're going to set the intention that today's session is going to relate to that in some way. You can breathe out into your heart, even if you don't explicitly know how it's going to relate. And then you're going to become present. And this is where the interplay happens. I mean, right now it's me talking to a screen and it's you receiving, but this skill is so important when you start to do presentations in front of other people, might be at a job interview, on a first date, or talking to your kids, whatever it may be. As you set the stage, you connect with the space. So if I'm training people on oratory skills and becoming speakers, mentors, facilitators, I talk about stop preparing. Just before you enter the space or the time of engagement, let it go. You've done all the preparation needed up to that point. And being obsessed about getting it right after this will actually detract from your presentation, your experience, your performance. So just before you step in, just let go. Detach from the back of the head, floating up and away, spaciousness, presence, surrender and trust. Then you enter the space. And before you connect with a person, I recommend connect with the space itself, because that is the shared realm. So look around, floor, ceiling, whatever it is, touch the wall. Sometimes if I'm in an auditorium, I actually get there early and I go to the back and I touch the back wall. I sit in the seats and I go, cool. So my communication has to come out here and reach this back row. Then I've got more empathy. I know the perspective and dimensions that my communication has to be imbued through. Then once I've connected with the space, I connect with the people. Not yet with a purpose or an intention to change them or present or impress, but just go, oh, we're here, cool. And often that's all it is. It's people being in a space for some reason. Could be a performance, could be at a battle, could be at church, could be random strangers are lining up at a supermarket, whatever it is. There's lots of different reasons to get together, but usually that's what we're doing. Humans, space. Cool. Just acknowledge each other without a role. Just, oh, I see you. Cool, we're here. Amazing. And that brings authenticity and realness. I'm not sure if you've been in the presence of a performer who's so in their head and in their performance, you never feel like they actually arrive in the room with you. And that's a bit harder to access then. So empty yourself, enter the space, connect with the space, then connect with the people. Then you remind yourself of your purpose. Why am I here? Yeah. And let that intention then flow. And you can have a structure. I sometimes do plan things, but I will always cast that script aside if something more riveting and live and true is happening in the moment. And that is the beauty of live art. But the live art can also happen internally. So right now, I'm speaking this to a recording on a camera that is going live stream, but I'm not able to interact with you, but there's still something live in me, and trusting the way that I will intuitively find the shape of this session. And that's the other key thing. As an orchestrator of an experience, as a facilitator, feel the shape. Are you in? Cool, we're in. All right. And then let it play. And then go towards a peak moment, a realization, an accumulation to a explosion, a culmination, an orgasm, a climactic moment of aha, the eureka. And then don't try anymore. Don't try to add good on top of great. Then just catch. If someone that you're facilitating has a mind-blowing realization, that's probably enough for the day. If they dance and they're sweating and they're whooping on the dance floor as a DJ, maybe start to bring it back down. It's noticing the shape and the peak, the zenith. And then it's the elegant catching, shoo, to taper it back down to the moment where it wraps up and you release them out of the holding of the magic space that you have conjured as the storyteller, as the guide. Be willing to be weird. Be willing to be bored. Often when things always make sense, it's only because we can fathom it from the starting line. Sometimes the outliers, the weird, the pioneers, the things that don't quite make sense, they just need another context and then they fall in place. And sometimes the art, the body, the movement, the expression lead you beyond what you know. And like, look, my voice is doing that. Why is it doing that? Well, it's because I put my jaw back into my throat and it sort of squashed my esophagus. And so there we have some kind of other character. All of a sudden, I want to be sad. And so I'm feeling right now, if this was a mask of a person, I feel like my eyes are drooping down. So it's that play, it's that combination, it's the particles that bump and catalyze something else. It's the enzyme that eats something and turns it into a new molecule. You can't tell that before you take a bite. Weirdness. So important. Particularly when it comes to words. So let's talk about words for a moment. That's quite ironic. Talking about words. So our mind gets in the way. So sometimes sounds is a good place to start. When I trained at high school, actually, I was very inspired by a man called Dario Fo, and he did something called grammarlo, which was like a nonsense word kind of vocabulary sounding. So let's do some grammarlo right now, which simply means so you're gonna talk, but you still, like, for me, I'm getting the sense, I'm not like mapping it one for one to words, but I kind of still get the character, the cadence, the typography or topography, the lie of the land, of the map of the sound, the music of my voice and language. You could even have like Malibon, they say, "Hey, what about Valid? No, yes, that's Mali, yeah, very good, nice, yeah, Kevin." So that for me was a little bit more like a laid back kind of, oh yeah, more like an Aussie kind of sound. Oh no, so Morley, yeah, so Morley, it's oh Chevy, oh mainly no Wallace, yeah, that's right. That for me feels more like the real nice kind of New Zealand, like, oh no, sorry, oh yeah, no worries, yeah, cool, all right. Oh mon cher l'orange, melus merest valanque. And I guess you can all tell by the charismatic tone that that was French. So yeah, playing with sounds, you don't have to be there for so worried about what you're going to say with the words, because we do intrinsically link words to intelligence, and we worry that we're going to sound stupid. So then we fumble over our words and sound maybe less intelligent than we truly are. So once you are in motion, and this is the idea about, I guess, writer's block, how can something like this communicate something like this? It's kind of hard to be fluid and mobile in your art if your body and your physiology is clamped up and nervous, stuck, bored, not moving. So even if you're going to sit down and write a poem, maybe get up and move how the poem is going to be. And this is the translation across. How can a poem be a dance? How can a painting be a song? Have you ever put up a painting on your screen and got out your guitar and sung back to the painting the interpretation sonically? If not, I highly recommend it. So start moving, start sounding, and then start playing with the words. So there's these two aspects, right? There's the musicality, and you could put some words, all of the things that I say will bounce. I like the way that I will announce. Here we go, and that's actually the flow topology game that I invented as part of Outspoken. And I've actually written a whole manual on that, which is all about how to freestyle. And you simply give each other a rhythm. So you can do this with a friend. It's like okay, so I'm going to give you boo, beep, 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 beep. And then they go, all right, so what should we eat? Rock and roll. And then they go, okay, I'll give you a pattern back. I'll go, and then you put words on top of it. I think the way that we live's great. So let's do it quickly now. I'll give you a flow and I'll leave a space for you to put words over it. Ready, shake, open. Don't think too much. Just put silly words. It doesn't actually matter if what you say makes sense, as long as some words go in the general pattern. No. Whoa. And final one. Doom, doom, da da da. Cool. So yeah, take that away, play with it as you will. And then we do come to the words themselves. So the words themselves are like structure. And those structures are symbols which trigger our imagination as well. So when I'm playing with words, I'm kind of looking at how they actually look, they sound. I chop them, I reverse them. I look at the different component parts. And it could be like a conceptual tangent I go off on, or just a sound, round, rhyme, time kind of tangent I go, where I'm not worried about the thought or the concept, but simply the shape of the word and the sound of it. And with those two tangents, the concept or the shape and sound, can keep me going for a long time. So for example, just some word play. I could start with some sort of random word. Let's go with here, cactus. Okay. So cactus, cactus, cacophony, octopus, like cock. So I'm just going with the sound of caca, very fricative, kakati, kukadi, cactus. But then if I could go conceptual, cactus in the desert, it was pleasant. All of a sudden, the sky settled down on the thorns. Okay, so it's more about the concept of the cactus rather than the cactus, the concoction of the shape of my mouth. Speaking of cactus, and then I could put the two together, saying the cactus, I'm in the cockpit flying over the desert. Did I desert all of my comrades, all of my peers flying in a flock? The desert is so hot. And so I take off my goggles and I look down at all of the seagulls. I'm now somehow off course. So I get out of my plane and get on top of a house. The horse is on top of a house, hissing down. Is the snake rattling its tail on the desert sand? My hands all of a sudden expanding to be the entire canopy across this dome, dimming the lights down into sunset, wet behind my eyes as I dream of rain. Poem's done. Print it. Send it to print, Jerry. So I hope you're having fun, if nothing else. I hope you're feeling this. I'm putting on my glasses because I'm looking at the clock, because I'm aware of time. And I actually have a surprise. Hear a rustle in the green room? I actually have a special guest, a really, really special guest today. And that's why I'm going to wrap up there from my section. I might come back later, but I really wanted to expose you to a friend, a dear person in my life who I've actually co-created sonically, creatively, artistically with before. And I really respect the way that she presents her art. So I'd love to welcome to the stage, Sandra. And I've invited Sandra here today. Hello, friend. Did you have fun? Did you play the cactus? Were you there in the desert with me?
Oh yeah.
Amazing. So this is Sandra. This is my special guest for today. It's a surprise. Up until now, it's just been me, but I really wanted to bring Sandra on today because we actually first met doing a sound bath sensorium. I was running it. A mutual friend introduced me because I needed someone to help bring some sound healing. And it was amazing. Right from the very first go, I was like, yes, you smash it. You hold such great space. And it's got this really, well, let me explain. This is why I love what you do. And then I would love you to do what you do and introduce yourself. But essentially, actually, I'm going to pause. I feel like I need to give you time to speak and say hello. But then I'd love to tell you why I love you do what you do. But yes, how are you today? Thank you for being here. Is there anything you'd like to say to introduce yourself or open the space for yourself?
Um, I think you're doing this great.
Okay.
This was really enriching so far and playful, and
Mm,
it's actually helpful for me too because there are so many different tools that I can incorporate into what I do because
mm.
it's obviously a different universe that I get to look into how you do things.
Thank
This was
you. Yeah, well, yeah, these it's totally different universes, and the emanation from your universe for me is very soothing. So I know Sandra from the, like I said, the sound bathing space. Also, you're a musician, so you sing. Sometimes we share poetry and ideas, and it doesn't really matter the channel or the purpose. There's always this kind of soothing aspect to the way that you convey it. And I think that kind of speaks also of your technique, which I'd love to hear a bit about, is about how you prepare the instrument of your body. What is the state or moment of creation for you? Because there is a definite openness to the way that you come across on in person and on screen. There's a certain bravery to the surrender of being seen. You know, there's particularly if it's a camera, there's this little robotic eye just like unblinking, looking at you. And like, how can you feel safe enough to allow that to penetrate and come and actually see this space while you are having an experience? And ultimately, that's, I think, the best art is when we ourselves are in the moment and it's a direct transmission. So that's definitely, I feel that you have this openness to be seen while you create. And then there is this grace, this femininity, this soothing, this nurturing, this warmth that comes through. So that's what I see of you. And thank you for putting that into the world and bringing the medicine that you do. And so, yeah, I'd love to kind of hand over. I mean, I'll hang around for a moment in case there's a bit of back and forth, and then I'll definitely disappear and leave the stage to you. But how do you do what you do? Why do you do what you do? Does it feel when you're doing what you're doing?
Hmm. Mm, yeah, I will have to say it took a while until I was actually putting more attention to what I'm doing instead of just doing it. And that developed once I felt more responsible of holding space, because there were actually people listening and coming and opening. And so I was like, oh, people are really vulnerable in this space, so I have to make sure in a way that I keep this path that I transmit through as open and clean as possible. So whatever I do in my life to be at a point where I have enough tools to keep this tube or channel clean is actually the work that needs to be done. And then if I manage to do that, and I have, you want to call it ego or the mind or the thought or all the little tricks that want to control where the next tone goes, or if I do sing words, all the things that want to be perfect. And if I manage to do as little or nothing of all of that as possible, then I can actually be, let's call it, of real service, because then whatever is needed in that situation can come through. And that's very beautiful. And that is only ever happening when I can fill myself up to a degree that I am as nourished from that whatever's coming through, and then I'm filling up, and then it flows over, and I'm never, when I'm doing it right, when my mind and ego are not intervening as much, I don't get tired. My voice never cracks or is weird or is tired or hurts. It does whatever it does, and it does weird sounds. And sometimes I'm like, oh, who is singing? Like, I don't know. I didn't know I could do that. But it's never damaging. It's always enriching and nourishing for myself as well. And I have energy afterwards. That's a good sign for me to be like, oh, okay, this time I could really step back and let happen whatever needed to happen.
Yes, that's so pertinent to this course, these 5 days as well, is having energy afterwards. Because the question is, it's been unrelenting, the pandemic going for as long as it has, and then now there's a war, and there's seemingly always different wars, and then there's the climate changes, and my friends in Australia being flooded. It's like, wow, this is an endurance race of like, how much more can we endure? And so I think this idea of being filled up afterwards from your practice and living with purpose and giving generously. Because I think in the usual transactional nature of giving and receiving, we think, oh, if I give you everything, I'm going to have nothing. And so we kind of keep things close to our chest. And so I think this approach that you're talking about here, where your process and your gift actually fills you up first and then spills over, means it is sustainable. And you can see yourself through any number of storms to come. And that's what I really want for this community. So, yeah, thank you for so perfectly articulating that. Well, I'm going to disappear now. I'm going to mute my camera, close the eye, and you do whatever you choose to. And thank you for your gift.
Thank you. Okay. Mm. I want to invite everyone first to just take a
Well,
deep breath. Yeah, we're going to do that in silence before the sound starts. And I invite you to either gently close your eyes or to lower your gaze. Take a deep
well,
breath. I invite you to either gently close your eyes or to lower your gaze and just arriving in your. And then using your breath. The breath as you know, is one of the most powerful tools. And it's not just a spiritual hippie thing, that's a biological, physiological thing that we have a lot of data for, that we can convince our skeptic with. So taking a deep inhale through your nose and exhaling long, either through your mouth or your nose. And you can use your voice, you can use the sound. Sighing also helps the nervous system to switch into rest. And feeling into the sound and what it feels like when you hear yourself. Making it a long exhale. And then I invite you, wherever you are, if you are lying down or sitting, to just become aware of the structures that are holding you. Whether that is the ground beneath your feet, the chair, your backrest, or whatever you're leaning against maybe. And just becoming aware of these holding structures around you. And then with your next exhale, just letting a little bit more go and letting yourself sink into these structures that are holding you. Keeping that exhale long and complete. And softening your face, softening your eyelids, cheeks, your lips. Soft and relaxed face, your eyebrows, your forehead, the top of your head, the back of your head, your neck and shoulders. Setting the intention to let something go with every exhale. No need to know what you're letting go, just setting the intention. Letting that softness run down the front of your body. Letting your belly be soft, breathing into the soft belly. Breathing into the sides of your body. Breathing into the back. Maybe you can even feel a little expansion in your lower back when you inhale. Feeling into the length of your spine. Shoulders drop, letting that softness run down your arms, into your hands and fingertips. Feeling into your legs, your hips, thighs, knees, lower legs, into your feet, soles of your feet, and all your toes. Feeling and breathing into the softness of your whole body. And now you using your imagination and visualizing in your throat a beautiful blue light. It's a bright blue, radiant, glowing light. It's very clear, and it has the characteristics of bringing clarity, clearing, holding truth. And now with your imagination, visualizing how this blue light is spreading and flowing through your whole body. Let it expand this calmness, this clarity. And really go through your whole body, taking your time, letting this blue clarity shine into every corner, enlighten every cell, providing these properties of calm, clarity throughout your whole body. From the top of your head to the toes, radiating with this beautiful bright blue. And then let it expand through your skin. Let it radiate outwards. And let it feel that it fill the space around you, your personal space. Again, with these properties of clarity, calm, and letting go of anything that is not in alignment with that. And I'm feeling into that space, that blue radiant glow around you. And staying there, staying in this calm, in this clarity. And in this space, connecting to the center of your heart and imagining a green light intertwining and playing with the blue light around you. Letting the sound wash over you. Letting the sound flow through you as if you were inhaling it like the air around you. In the center of the earth, I am that I am away. In the center of the stars, I am that awakened truth. of my heart, in the center of my heart, I am that I am love. Slowly coming back, connecting to your breath, deepening your inhale, filling your lungs, using the breath to bring little movements into your toes and fingers, and expanding this movement into any stretch, keeping your eyes closed, staying close to you. I'm inviting you to sing 3 sounds with me, 3 times one sound. And it's that universal sound that is so ancient, Om, and we're gonna sing it with the 3 vocals, A, U, O, Aum. First we take a breath together, inhaling through your nose, exhaling or sighing out through your mouth. One more time, inhaling through your nose, exhaling, inhaling for the arm. Inhaling. One more time, inhaling. Feeling into this. If you feel like it and you still have your eyes closed, taking 3 more deep breaths in and out before you come out, open your eyes, and are fully back in your space wherever you are. If you need more grounding, if you traveled somewhere, it's always helpful. Give yourself a hug, touch your body, give yourself a little massage to come back into this beautiful vessel. Thank you, everyone, whoever's out there listening.
Yes, such medicine. Thank you for doing what you always do with such grace, nurturing, effortless power. Thank you, dear Sandra. And my feeling is really just to not talk too much now and just allow that beautiful resonance that you imbued and gave all of the viewers to just ripple out into their day. So I'm going to wrap it up here with thanks and just trusting that whatever you brought back from that experience, the love, the self-holding, can now lead you into action for the day. And may the beauty be a relay out into others, trusting this irrepressible nature of humanity to create beauty, to follow beauty, to realize through beauty the simplicity of what we all share.
Thank you.
Thank you. Big love.